First of all, I want to say that I am obsessed with my outfit. You can't see my pants, but they're big, fluffy pants. So they almost look like secret pants. And I just kind of look like History Bound meets the 1930s meets, I don't know, really cool. I love it. That's it. So I made this plan almost a year ago. I watched Meet Me in St. Louis for the first time. Somehow I had never seen it. And just fell in love with Judy Garland's velvet red dress. And it was at that moment that I decided I am going to make that dress for Christmas this year. And then I had the fun task of figuring out how I was going to do that. Luckily for me, the Missouri History Museum actually took pictures of some of the guts of the dress, so I at least have those as references, so I don't need to guess too much. Then I needed to find a pattern because this dress was going to cost way too much to just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. And it took me months of looking on Etsy to try to find a pattern that I could work with to kind of base this dress off of. But I found one. This pattern is actually from 2006, so not too long ago. I mean, well, it is 2021, so 2006 I was still in high school. And I'm 33. I wasn't in high school that long ago. Oh, existential crisis. Anyway, I think this pattern is going to work really well as the base of the dress. The skirt I don't really need to change at all. For the bodice, I'm going to do the inside layer in this cotton because it has a similar look to what they originally used. And here's my cotton velveteen. I've never used any kind of velvet before, so I'm really nervous about it, but I have been watching videos and reading about how to sew with velvet, so hopefully I don't screw it up. This pattern also has you make a petticoat, which I'm going to make just because the petticoat I have is very narrow and I've been meaning to make like a fuller petticoat anyway. Hopefully I have enough of this cotton muslin. I think I do, but if I don't, it's just a trip to Joann's. The major thing I'm changing on this pattern is the sleeves. I haven't quite figured out what sleeve pattern I'm going to use, but these are too big. And as per my MO, I'll figure it out when the time comes. I'm not going to worry about it for now. Right now, I'm just going to cut out the petticoat and I'm going to cut out my mock-up for the bodice and go from there. Oh, that's a big piece. Yeah, I definitely don't have enough. To Joann's! That should do it. The great thing about making this petticoat is that it also works as a mock-up for the skirt because it's the same pattern. So I get to make a mock-up when I don't usually make mock-ups of skirts because it's a lot of fabric. So I'm getting close to finishing up the petticoat. Let me introduce you to the ruffle of doom. It's a lot. I already hemmed the top of it, and since this pattern calls for just an absolute crap ton of lace, and I didn't want to go spend all that money, I actually have this lace here that I found at a thrift store a while ago. And wouldn't it be so cute if you like lifted up your skirt a little bit and like little roses peeked out? So once I get this ruffle sewn on and I finish the mock-up of the bodice, I'm gonna put it all on with my corset because I don't know if Judy Garland wore a corset in the movie with the dress, but they made such a big deal about putting on a corset in the scene before because even in the 1940s, corsets were seen as torture devices. So I'm gonna wear a corset. I was gonna start on this bodice last night, but then I got distracted. I mean, what else are you supposed to do when your skirt is super twirly? And then, well, I twirled too much. So new day, bodice time. So clearly this bodice is a little big. I'm not quite too sure where to start. But the first problem I see is that the shoulders need to be taken up a little bit. So I think I'll do that first. It's already looking better. I feel like the waist is sitting at a really nice spot. I don't think I need to shorten it at all, which is amazing. I may need to shorten this point a little bit. I think it's a little long, but I think I'm going to tackle all of this extra room in here right now. I'm going to try to even them out to make sure I don't get like super wonky seams, but I think I'm on the right track. I think the front's looking good. Now let's tackle the back. This is going to be harder. It's really, really close. I think the shoulder straps are still wrong because I'm getting, I don't know if you can see that, I'm getting this gapping in the back. So I think I'm going to redo the shoulder straps, and then I have a little bit of extra room down here, so I need to take this in a little bit more. After that, I'm going to create a new pattern out of it, recut it, sew it all up again. I'll probably put the boning in it this time just to make sure that it all looks good. And then we move on to the velvet. So here are the pieces laid out next to the original pattern pieces. This side back doesn't have many changes at all. So let's put these together and see if I did it right. This mock-up is 99.9% done. I lowered the neckline. It's not even. I just went with it on. So I'll clean that up. Also, I really like where it's sitting. I don't know if you can see it. I like where it's sitting at my waist now, and so I'm going to add a little bit of length to the bottom just to make sure that I have that seam allowance. And then in the back, when I cut the back, all the pointiness of the back went away, so I need to add that back in. It is time to move on to the real thing. Look, I made a skirt. I know it's not what I was supposed to do, but here's what happened, okay? I went to Joann's and they were having 40% off sale of this fabric, and they only had like 2.5-ish yards, and so I just bought whatever was left on the roll. And so then I got it home, and then I was wondering, do I have enough to make the skirt that I want? So then I laid out the pattern onto the fabric, and then since the pattern was already laid out, I decided to cut it out, and then somehow I sneezed and I had made the skirt. Okay, enough procrastinating. I was going to make a funny clip of me like going to cut out the fabric and then stopping and then going to cut out the fabric and then stopping because, you know, I'm so nervous about it. But I've made a couple of mistakes. When I ordered this fabric, I thought I had ordered more fabric than I did. I think what happened was I was going to order 10 yards of fabric, but I'm assuming I looked at the price and went, oh no! And so I only ordered 6 yards, which was barely enough. Like, the pattern itself requires almost 6 yards of fabric. And I know what I was thinking is, well, I'm not going to have these massive sleeves, which probably takes up a large yardage, but it's velvet. It has a nap, Sam. So I only ordered 6. So when I saw that I had only ordered 6 yards of fabric, I, in a tizzy, cut out all of my pattern pieces because I was like, oh no, what if I need to order more and then dye lots and stress. But it worked out barely. I don't think the sleeves are going to be as puffy as in the movie because, well, I only had 6 yards of fabric. But all of the pieces are cut out. 2, I ordered this fabric back in the summer because when I go to order swimsuit fabric anywhere near the summer, it's all sold out. So I was like, ordering red velvet near Christmas is probably not a good idea. So I ordered it in the summer, and then it came in the mail, and I just forgot that it was velvet and that I needed to unfold it so that it didn't get creases in it, and I just kept it in the package and just threw it in my closet because, well, I wasn't going to need it until Christmas. So it's been folded since I ordered it. I have steamed as much as I can. I don't think it'll be too obtrusive, but there is a crease in it. I'm going to try to steam again later once I get the dress all put together. But it is what it is. I'll know better for next time. For the front, I'm going to add some interfacing just along this edge, just to make sure that this shape has a little bit of integrity. Now I'm going to sew in the boning channels. I'm just going to sew them onto the seams, and so I'm going to sew them onto the front seams and the back seams. I'll have to do the side seams by hand later. In the original garment, the boning channels are very close to the color of the lining fabric, but I have this vintage bias tape that I just kind of really like and want to use for the boning channels, because I don't know what it is about contrasting boning channels that I like. Just like contrasting boning channels. So that's what I'm going to use. Ugh, this is gonna be my life. Fuzzies everywhere. Back is all flat-lined. I'm going to switch to working on the skirt now, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm afraid of draping the front. No, that's not it at all. It's not that I don't have any draping experience, because I don't. It's just that, you know, I want to give the skirt time to hang so, you know, it can do whatever it's going to do before I hem it. That's it. I'm just giving it time. It has nothing to do with me being nervous about draping the front. Got the skirt mostly put together at this point. My biggest problem is that this fabric is so heavy that it keeps tearing out my gathering stitches, which is not fun. So this is like the third or fourth time I'm running a gathering stitch, hoping that I can make it not break this time. Other than that, this fabric has been like super easy to work with. I guess because it's the cotton velveteen and not like the silk velvet or even the polyester velvet. It's super stable. I haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. Once I get this gathered, all I need to do is add the waistband and the closures, and then I can just let this hang overnight. Gather around, kids. Let me tell you a story about draping this bodice. So I'm going to reiterate, I have zero experience draping things, but I did know I needed to drape on the bias, so go me! So I did everything in the exact wrong order. So this is going to be the extremely abridged version because this took me 3 hours, and you know that there was a lot of screaming and cursing and crying within that 3 hours. So I had just finished the skirt and I put it on with my corset and everything, and I was like, oh, I look so cute. I'm going to drape the bodice in this because how hard could it be? Mistake number one, because it was in my way the whole dang time, so I ended up changing. Mistake number two, I started with this large portion, which is the top portion, because I just had a little bit of fabric left over and I needed to get all of these pieces, and I figured this was the biggest one, so we'll start there. So that one was pretty easy. Once I figured out these pleats, I just basted those down, and then we could move on to this section, which meant I needed to pull this off and get underneath there. So I ended up running a gathering stitch along here so that I could get all of this fullness eased in. And then after that, it was pretty easy to get these cut out from my pattern. I made it sound way more simple than it was. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of stress. I like it. It's not perfect. This point here probably should be a little bit farther over. I'm wondering now if I shouldn't have done like a bustier style top instead of this like 1890s style top, because this is just not correct. It doesn't have the same shape as it does in the movie. It's definitely not low cut enough. And yeah, it just doesn't sit the same way on my boobs. Of course, I don't have a lot of boobs. But overall, I really like it. I'm really happy with the way that this came out. Like, hooray for my first draping experience. So now I just need to get the sleeves on and finish up this bottom edge, and then also get the closure on the back done. In the original costume, the skirt used hook and eye tape, but it doesn't look like the bodice did. But on the pattern that I'm using, the bodice uses hook and eye tape, but the skirt doesn't. And I couldn't figure out how to get the hook and eye tape to work with the skirt. So I just ended up using what the pattern suggested. And so I thought, why not do the same for the bodice? And I'm going to use hook and eye tape for the bodice. So they're just switched. This dress is pretty. There are a couple things that I need to fix. I need to put hooks on the back of the bodice and the back of the skirt to hold the skirt up because it keeps slipping down because of the weight. Also, the back isn't staying closed over the hook and eye tape, so it's just, you know, exposing the white hook and eye tape. So I think I'm going to sew little tacks into the back so that it looks nice and neat. Other than that, I am pretty gosh darn happy with this dress. Derek and I are going on a cruise for Christmas. It's something that we plan to do in 2020, and well, pandemic happened, so we're doing it this year, and I plan on wearing this dress on Christmas for dinner because they're having a formal night that night. And it's over the top, and I love it, and I'm so excited. This is my last video for 2021, so I will see everyone in 2022. If you are not subscribed, subscribe. I plan on making a whole bunch of pretty dresses in 2022 as well. I hope you all have fabulous holidays, and I will see you all next year. Bye!